Juice makes an appearance.
Hey, hey!
Promo code ham.
Brought out the flames for Juice. Here he is, getting ready for his 11th NFL season. The last 7 in a row, a Pro Bowler. Back on the show. Juice himself, Kyle Juszczyk. Great to see you, man.
Juice!
When's the last time you got that on the street?
I get it quite often, especially there's a lot of kids in my neighborhood and a lot of jet skis go by my backyard and I get a lot of juice as they go by. Not too much privacy here.
You know what I was thinking this morning is that, people, I'm guilty of this, talk shit about the Pro Bowl. Like, oh, that guy made the Pro Bowl. That guy made the Pro Bowl. Yet people like you, it's like, no, I'm like a real Trent Williams, Nick Bosa. Like, I'm a Peyton Manning. I make the Pro Bowl on merit. So when you say 7 straight, those aren't like half of them inflated. Like, no, I was the best fullback in the league. I was a true Pro Bowler. Sometimes I can't make it because I'm in the Super Bowl, but other than that, I'm there representing my squad.
100%, man. And like people try to hate on it, but it's like, well, what else am I supposed to do? I'm not making it as an alternate. What would you prefer? Like, I not be a Pro Bowler? Like, when people are like, oh, there's only 15 fullbacks. So yeah, of course you made it. Well, I'm like, all right, so I'm still the best of that group. Like, what more can I really do? So it's a hard argument to have with people.
I mean, you could do that. The catch you had in the Pro Bowl was probably one of the best. I mean, was that one of the best catches of your career, laying out like that?
It might be. Honestly, it's like the Pro Bowl games have actually been like some of my best, I feel like, athletic performances, because usually the running backs, they kind of tap out by halftime. They don't really want to be there. They don't want to like put in the effort. So I'm always that guy. Like I tell the offense coordinator before the game, I'm like, hey man, like I'm here to play. I love doing this stuff. Like I have a blast. So when it's third, fourth quarter, whatever you need me to do, play receiver, play running back, like I'm your guy. So I always seem to get opportunities in those games.
I mean, you hit Kyle immediately after the game. He's like, I understand we got Deebo and now we got McCaffrey and Aiyuk, but you see what I'm doing out here, bro? I mean, are you kidding me? We are underutilized.
I'm not embarrassed to admit that seconds after that game ended, I sent him the clip of me throwing a pass to, I think it was the CeeDee Lamb. I said, I mean, we gotta use this, man. Untapped potential over here.
That's just kind of crazy. I mean, when you think about just when you thought there weren't enough balls to go around, you guys added McCaffrey. It was like Deebo, Kittle, Aiyuk, Jennings. Like I looked this morning, I'm like, God, Ray, because somebody asked me like, can Danny Gray have a breakout year? And I was like, well, how many catches is a breakout year? Let me go look at what Ray did last year. Ray, I thought, had 10 game-changing catches. He had 14 total catches on the season. Like, there's just not that many balls to go around. It's crazy.
Led the league in outfits too.
Ray definitely he definitely always looks good. But no, you're right. Like at the end of the day, there's not a lot of balls to go around, and especially an ideal game for us, we're not throwing the ball 40 times. An ideal game, we're probably, I don't know, throwing the ball 25, 28 times. So when it comes to like receptions, there's not a ton to go around. But we manufacture touches in other ways. You see that with Deebo all the time. Like Deebo may not have 8 catches, but he'll touch the ball 12 times in a game, So Kyle's very good about that. And I think if anything, it really like it pushes you that like when you get that ball, you're taking advantage of that. Like that may be your only op. And I know I see it that way for me, because I mean, realistically, I'm going to get 2, maybe 3 targets a game, maybe if I'm like lucky at this point. So when I touch that ball, like I'm doing everything I can with it. And I'm going to make sure I secure that catch. I'm going to get every yard possible. So I think that's kind of how everybody's mentality is on this offense.
I missed on McCaffrey twice when he was coming out of the draft. Back, you were cutting your teeth back in Baltimore, us Bay Area guys, around Stanford. He was obviously incredible, but it was like, is he going to be more like Julian Edelman in the NFL, more of a slot receiver? Turns out he was just incredible, right? Has those 3 years. And then he's a little out of sight, out of mind. So you just kind of, team's bad, he's banged up. So when the trade happens, it was a ballsy trade and it made sense because the Rams were involved. But it's like, running back. And then he gets here, you're like, Jesus Christ, this guy is incredible. Were you even shocked? I know you've been around him before Pro Bowls and stuff, and I'm sure you knew him before he got to the team, but just how sweet the dude was once you guys started playing games?
Yeah, no, I admit I didn't have the appreciation that he deserved either. And this actually was the first time I had ever met him. Just so happened that the Pro Bowls that we had like overlapped, we were in the Super Bowl, and I think one of them was 2020, and we didn't have it. So we hadn't met. And when he showed up, that was my first time meeting him, seeing how he operates, how he goes through his day to day, and really seeing the effect that he has being on your squad. And dude, I can't say enough. Like he's one of the best football players I've ever seen in my life. He truly can do everything. He can change the game in so many different ways. And like you said, like, I mean, we have all these weapons, and we already had a pretty good offense. And it's like, all right, what is adding a running back gonna do to it? But he's so much more than that. He's not just a running back. He's just a true dynamic playmaker, and I think that's what Kyle loves. He loves guys that can do a lot of different things, that can attack you in a bunch of different ways. And I mean, Christian's just the definition of that. And man, it's been really cool to get to know him and have him as a teammate, because he's pushed me. He's he's showing me some things that, hey, just like, try this recovery thing out. Hey, when I run this route, I'm thinking about the defense's leverage on this, like different things that are just coming from one of the best in the game. And it's great to pick his brain every day.
You sit by him in meetings? What's he like in meetings?
I do. He's right next to me. He's a note taker.
Stanford
guy. He's taking notes in the team meeting. And he's really studious. He really is a student of the game. And I said something on, I think it was the Rich Eisen show the other day, about how Kyle's team meetings are by far the most entertaining team meetings that I've ever been a part of, especially if like you're a true lover of football, ball. Like this guy he'll break down all 22 players in a play and tell you each and every one of their assignments and how it affects the other, and how this guy being out of the gap is going to create a hole back here. And I mean, multiple times, like the team meeting has ended and Christian just like looks at me. He's like, dude, like I could sit here all freaking day and listen to this. Like, this is ball right here. And so, I mean, that just shows like Christian just loves the game, and he loves learning like we, all the good ones do.
Well, anyone that watches, I mean, obviously we got a lot of people listening that watch every snap forever, that it was clear once he got there why just like, God, this makes sense. But there was, like, to me, there's a lot of the equity on the team before he showed up, right? All the playoff wins, all the big games of just like toughness, right? From you to Kittle to now Trent, Fred. By the end of that season, it felt like he was just one of the crew. I mean, that game in Philly, once the quarterback goes down and he ties it up on that play where he looks like, I don't know, Jim Brown or something. It was great. And he just ran his ass off till it just felt by the end of the season, it was like, this guy just belongs on the same level of just like go to war with this guy.
100%. I mean, he fit in so seamlessly right away, in the locker room and on the field. Like you said, like the physicality and just being a tough runner and just a guy that you want to go to war with. Like, I mean, you just see it on the field. Like, that's just the way he plays. And we all play off of each other. We all push each other, and we're close enough with one another that like we can be hard on each other. Like, I have no problem going up to Aiyuk and calling him out on whatever it is. And he'll do the same thing to me. Like, he'll try me too. And it's because we've like built that brotherhood that we can do that. And we're still great friends and still love to play with each other. But another thing, I'm going to be praising Christian all year. So just this is a little preamble. One of the things that I love about him as a teammate is, like, I don't know anyone in the locker room who doesn't get along with him. Like, I see him talk to everybody. Like, he's doing these shadow boxing games with practice squad guys. He's taking his arm around rookies and like talking to them. He's with the vets. He's with the offense. He's with the defense. Like, he really, he's everywhere, and everyone seems to really gravitate to him and appreciate the kind of person he is.
I want to make it the McCaffrey pod, like you said.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a star. He's a star again. We're allowed to talk about him.
So hard. That's the other thing. Like he runs so hard in OTA, OTAs. It's crazy to see.
Yeah, he practices his ass off, man.
You called it on Aiyuk too. You were on after Ayuk's rookie year, and you're like, Brandon wants to be great. And the other thing you said was, Brandon he needs a leader. He needs like a vet to kind of show him the way. And what happened that year? Like he, air quotes, wasn't doghouse, whatever, but he had a really slow start. And then he had like 9 catches in the first 6 games. And then he just took off and he hasn't looked back. And then all the stuff that you said, like he and Kyle have kind of said since, like, I just needed to figure out how to be a pro. But you said it first.
Yeah, man, you're seeing it pay off. And I mean, kind of like he said at the end of OTAs, like he's ready to take off, and you can see it. Like there are people that when you're at practice, they just stand out, and he's 100% been that guy for a little bit now, but especially in OTAs. I mean, you talk about Christian practicing hard. Aiyuk is in that exact same category. When he is out there, he's an ass kicker. Like he wants all the smoke. He's going to talk all the trash to the defensive backs. He's going to back it up. And he just looked like he was moving at a different speed than everyone else on the field. So I think he's in store for an even bigger season this year.
Do you think, the offensive skill guys now are probably some of, if not the most established group in the league? The offensive line, subtract Trent, last year coming into the season was like, how's Banks going to do? He established himself left guard, replacing a Pro Bowl, and it went well. Burford had that weird, would sub out during the game, but obviously he played a ton on a team that was in the NFC Championship game, and by this offseason, the offensive line coach is like, he's even taken another step. Are you able to tell with young guys, offensive or defensive, but even the offensive line, like, this guy's going to make it here, or, this is going to be tough for the guy pretty quickly now, like from your John Lynch point of view as an evaluator / player? Yeah,
I mean, obviously we're not all batting 100%, but all the guys in the locker room, like if you've been in the NFL, you've played for a while, like we always say, like, is it really that hard? Is it that hard to evaluate? Like, because we feel like we got it figured out like within the first couple of days. And like I said, we're not batting 100%, but I do think, like, as you've been in the league and you've seen it done, I don't know, there's a blueprint. Not everybody has to do it the same way, obviously, but I do think it's easier to recognize early on. All right, this guy, he has the right stuff. He's made of the right stuff. He can get it done, or he has the right attributes, the right abilities, and I think he can be a player or not.
Well, like, physicality obviously is a big part of the squad. So, like, I guess an OTA sometimes is you have to wait till training camp, because, like, Hufunga's a guy that clearly transitioned really quickly, right? I mean, just a 49er, just belongs. Or last year getting Charvarius. Now, he had played in the NFL, right, for the best team. So when he made it was clear, like, God, this guy's pretty good. So is there just a level of physicality that just probably more than most teams just required for Kyle?
100%. Like, you cannot play on our team if you're not physical. And I think that's one of those things that, like, so I have an idea from OTAs who I think, has a chance to be a good player, but, like, with every one of those evaluations, it kind of ends with, all right, well, we'll see when the pads come on. Like, that's when we can really evaluate guys and, if they're going to fit on this squad, is when it's time to pop those pads. Like, are you willing to do it?
Clearly they saw something they liked in Darnold, right, to bring him in when they did. Can you tell with a quarterback in OTAs?
Not entirely. Like, there are things obviously that jump out to you. But I think with quarterbacks, and it sucks. It just, like, I feel like the truest way you can evaluate a quarterback is how he plays in games. And it's just so hard to really simulate that. Even in practice, like, I mean, you're doing everything you can, but it's just different when there's live bullets and guys can actually tackle you, and you can actually extend a play, and it's not just an argument between the D-line coach and the O-line coach. Oh, he was sacked. No, he wasn't. That kind of thing. And you kind of saw it with Purdy. Like, he looked good in practice, but it wasn't until, like, those preseason games that we're like, oh, this he's a little bit of a baller. Like, he's got something there. So, obviously, like, I've liked what I've seen from Darnold. Guy seems to, really loves ball. Like he loves asking questions and picking brains of guys that like have been here and how we do things. And he's been extremely accurate with his passes. So like, those kind of things like stand out. But again, it's going to be kind of hard to see until, we get some preseason game action and, when we practice with the Raiders and that kind of stuff.
With Jimmy, maybe.
Jimbo. That's gonna be
your quarterback's just life with the 49ers these last couple years. It's crazy because everyone, I mean, we're biased, but no one would say the 49ers aren't a top 5 team going into the season. But the others like Mahomes, Josh Allen, Burrow, it's like Jalen Hurts, who just got $700 million. The 49ers. it has to be. It's not exhausting because clearly you guys are confident in however it plays out, but it's a pretty unique situation relative to the league.
It's extremely unique. I mean, I've loved football my whole life, and I can't remember any team that like it's kind of like undisputed top 5 team in the league, but like nobody really like, there's always who's the quarterback, like we're talking about who's going to be our backup quarterback, like that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's definitely unique. It does get exhausting answering questions on it because as many of us have said, like we don't get to choose who the starting quarterback is. But we truly do go in with the confidence that like whoever it is, he was chose to be the starter for a reason. And like, we're going to do everything we can to make his job easier. And so I think that's just like the easiest mindset to have as being on this team and being on that offense. Because, like, I mean, on any team, we don't get to choose who the quarterback is. Kyle's going to make that decision. So we trust in him. What
was your phone like the night you, McCaffrey, Kittle, Jimmy go to the Warrior game, and then it wasn't the Warriors dance team, right? It was like it was
the senior dance team. I think they're all like 65 plus.
And they just swarmed.
They did a great job. They did a really great job, but they had no interest in talking to me, Christian, or George. They went straight to Jimmy and were not shy about it.
Have you ever been around someone who's just universally discussed like, this guy's just an incredible looking human being? Like everyone, I don't care who you meet. You can talk to my mom. You can talk to people's wives. You can talk to football fans. It's like the first thing that Jimmy Garoppolo, God, he's good looking.
It's just a good looking guy, man. I guess being around him after, for as long as I had, I got used to it. Eyes were never on me when Jimmy's around, which is okay. I'm married. I'm not looking for that. So, soak it up, Jim.
This one thing I saw on Instagram within the last week, you guys were like hanging by the pool and your wife kind of scrolls and you're over there running with like things hanging off your back to train. McCaffrey, is marrying some supermodel who knows where all over the globe. You guys take your fitness and everything very seriously. Is it hard to train? Like, it's probably easier on just a normal week, but on some of these weeks in the off season, like, do you feel you can lose it a little bit? Like, if you go to Europe, how do you lift hard? I mean, you're a fullback
right.
Or he's a running back. Like, is that something that like, do you get anxiety over that? How do you maintain it?
No, I definitely get anxiety about it. And I kind of feel like if you don't get anxiety about it, like maybe there's an issue because, I mean, this is the most important thing in the world to us is like
Trent probably doesn't.
Yeah, I don't think Trent's too worried about it, honestly, but he's a different breed. But it's on you to be professional enough to like find time to get those workouts in. And so like that video that you pointed out, like my wife and I, we went with our best couple friends. We went out to the Hamptons for like 5 days. And while, everyone else is chilling by the pool, reading, I'm like, well, I gotta get something in. It like, at the very worst, I'm not getting worse. If anything, I'm staying the same. I'm hoping I'm actually putting in enough effort that I'm getting better. But you find the tools that you bring with you, and you find the time, and you get those workouts in. And I try to do them as early as possible so I can enjoy the rest of the day and get to hang out with everybody else. But in the back of my mind, once it turns July, that anxiety is there for sure. Because it's just around the corner and it's about to be a marathon. And I think it's a good thing because I think it drives you and it prepares you for, a long season.
So what does it take? Like what level of, like what is the regular workout? I think everybody watching and listening to this, some people maybe hit the gym for an hour a day. Some people maybe do 3 days of 30 minutes. And it's like, that's progress because they're working to just, keep it off or maintain some healthy level to fit in a pair of pants. What is the NFL level of effort that you have to put it in the off season?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously individually based. It's going to be different for every guy. And, how long they've been doing this, their body makeup and all that kind of thing. But I mean, for me personally, and it's different for each stage of the off season. Like I'm at the peak right now. Like these past 2 weeks are like 2 of my like hardest weeks of training for the year. Like, so, right now, like I'm working out 4 days a week. It's usually anywhere from like 2.5 to 3 hours. And that's split up between on the field and the weight room. For me, like I like to do most of that work on the field. Because at the end of the day, like we're football players, we're not weightlifters. And I feel like I've found throughout my career that like strength is important, but it's not nearly as important as speed and explosiveness. So like that's where my main focus is at. Like you saw in that video, like I do a lot of resisted sprints. I do a lot of plyometrics. Even when I'm in the weight room, like I'm trying to move things fast. Like I'm not trying to just grind out, 1 rep max, that kind of thing. So, I mean, that's just kind of, what I do. I'm in my 11th year. So things are different for me than maybe, a first year guy who's really still trying to build that base. But that's what works for me.
Well, that's the crazy part about the draft, right? You have all these numbers, and that's been Belichick thing for like 50 years. We don't play combine, right? We play football.
Right.
But it's like, is Nick Bosa the strongest guy in the league? I don't know, but his strength and his speed translates. And maybe he is. Or, Trent, I'm sure, could probably lift as much as anybody in J.J. Watt in his prime. But for the most part, there are guys that can lift a lot, but then their functional strength isn't great. Or speed. I mean, being a skill guy, their speed doesn't translate. I don't think Deebo is just naturally the fastest guy in the league, but his play speed is elite with the ball in his hands, right? And that's who else. Why does it really matter if he runs a 4.50 or a 4.42, right? You put the ball in Deebo's hands, I don't remember many guys catching him, right, in the open field.
Right, 100%. And I agree with that testament all the way that, like, we're not playing combine. And, I mean, as a former scout, like, yeah, like you can get some information from these numbers for sure. Like, there are certain baselines that
like Danny Gray is fast, right?
Yes.
Like that's not, he can run by guys.
Right. But then it's like, okay, how can you use that speed on the field?
Sure.
So like, I feel like those numbers are kind of like your starting point. And then it's like, all right, what can we do with those numbers?
Have you guys been listening to the Playmakers, that little podcast series The Athletic just put out?
It's funny.
Kyle McVay, Mike McDaniel, and LaFleur.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody sent it to me this morning. I just got through the first episode. I'm on the middle of episode 2 now.
Do they talk, or is it someone?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Is Kyle's favorite word shit? Is that his favorite word?
No, his favorite word starts with an F. But a lot of profanity. I don't think he doesn't even hear it when he speaks. It's so funny because I'll do like Zoom meetings in the off season, and sometimes like somebody walks by the room and the amount of shits and fucks and all this they hear, and they're like, what is going on in there? I'm like, honestly, he's not upset at all. Like he's just talking.
It's I'll play you one, John, listen to this clip. Kyle, you've probably heard this, but it's just, I've only listened to like the first one last night, but it starts with just the piss boys is what they call them, because they just got pissed on by all the other coaches on the Shanahan staff. But I just want to play this clip. Raheem Morris is talking about how he used to ride to the stadium with, I think, McVay and McDaniel, maybe, or McVay and LaFleur.
Yeah.
And they would just they would run through the whole game plan, yelling at each other, arguing. And then he said this, and we got to get Juice's insight on this.
Shanahan's psychopath time, where he goes into a closet in the stadium, and he finds his closet, and he go in there and he go through his process that he does, where he stands in his head and he writes his plays down, and he rewrites them again.
And I guess the story is he does stand on his head. Like that's what this podcast got into a little bit.
Okay, so I know that he does this whole like go in the closet or like go into the corner where like in some weird spot. We're
talking
like,
Kyle Shanahan here.
Talking about Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, he'll go like in the equipment room. He's like over in the corner behind like a trunk, looking at his play sheet, doing stuff. I didn't know about the standing on his head part. So that's funny you brought that up because I literally put a note in my phone, make sure to ask Kyle about this whole standing on his head thing. Because I got to find out if this is true. And I want to witness this, or like, I want to send somebody on game day to get a picture of that for me. Cause I feel like that the people need that.
One thing that happened over the offseason is George was talking, and Guy and I talked about this probably a month ago, about like setting up plays. Like he'll just do throwaway plays in the run game to ultimately or pound you, knowing that it'll break maybe in the third or fourth quarter. But in the first or second quarter, every fan's going to be throwing up their hands like, what are we doing? Mm-hmm. Is that something that just consistently, because you guys are, because Guy asked, I remember when we were doing the pod, like, does Andy Reid do that? I'm like, well, it's a little different in the passing game, right, than it is in the running game.
Right.
Is that, first and foremost, is that a fair assessment? And two, do you guys consistently do that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment. Like, obviously in the passing game, I feel like the biggest thing is like, okay, you can set up a double move, you know, like, all right, you're going to run a hitch and then you're going to run a hitch and go.
But you still want to complete the hitch, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's pretty basic elementary, but no, George is 100% telling the truth there as far as the run game, setting up a play later, run play in the first half, setting up a play in the second half. Like that's happening every single game. And I think if you listen to this Playmakers podcast, they allude to that, that play action is a big part of his offense. And I think it was, he like showed up in Tampa and they didn't have any play action. And he's like, all right, well, we have to build something in there. And he talks about the drift route, which, I mean, in the basic sense of it, it's a play action that you're trying to draw up the linebacker and you're going to replace him with the receiver behind him. And that's been a huge play.
Yeah.
90% of Deebo's 60-yard touchdowns are that play specifically. Like, so that's just a big part of his game planning. And yeah, I mean, we're doing that every week.
So go ahead, John.
The crazy part about the offense, right, is a lot of offenses evolve. Like when I was with Andy a decade ago, the West Coast, it was still pretty close to like stuff that Walsh and some of definitely they were doing, like with Favre and Steve Young was doing in the 90s. And I think Kyle has parts of that, but the running game is much more of a factor. And when I got to the NFL, Andy had a fullback, like we would get in pro formations. That is still the base of your offense. Like, have you seen in all the years you've been around Kyle, has it really adapted, or is it just so hard to defend that you don't really need to? Because most offenses, it's like adapt or die, but it feels like Kyle, there's still just some basic elements of we're going to run outside zone, and that's never really going to change.
No, it's 100% adapted, and it's at a more minute scale that like it's kind of harder to see, like if you're not in it every single day. I would say the biggest way that it's evolved is just been like our run schemes. When I got there, like there was a lot of, I mean, I guess in the easiest way, like I don't have a better word for it. There was just like simpler schemes. It was, we're in the I formation and I'm going to go fit up on the Mike linebacker. Like it was called 18 Mike. We ran that a shit ton my first like 2 years. And then
is that just like an inside zone run?
Yeah. And we could do it inside or outside zone, but just like leading up on the Mike linebacker, or you run a weak side. We call that weak, 19 weak, and just me leading up on the Will linebacker. There's less of
Lorenzo
that.
Neal would be proud.
Yeah, exactly. There's less of that now. So like in 19, when we went to the Super Bowl, all of a sudden we're running all these gap schemes. We're coming out, we're running power, we're running counter, we're running weak side counter, all that kind of stuff. But we always do it. We marry that with that outside zone that we're known for. So like we block our counter scheme different than anybody else. Like most people on gap or pin and pull schemes, like they're trying to just move people. Like it's about big guys moving big bodies. Yeah. Where we try to make like the front side of our gap schemes look like the back side of our zone schemes. So we try to make people run. And you're kind of putting yourself on a limb there because not to get like in too much of offensive line detailing, but when you take a really wide target, it's easier for a defensive lineman to kind of shed that. And if he knows that, okay, a power play is coming to me, the offensive lineman's not getting into them as much. You're trying to get them to run, so you're taking a wider target, getting less of the defender.
It's really positional blocking more than just...
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so you're trying to make him do the movement for you. And so you're putting it on a little bit of a risk, because if that defensive lineman sniffs that out, that's an easy play for him to stop. But we make it so believable because that's what we do. We run outside zone consistently. So we try to make it hard to distinguish between the two. But like you said, going back to like the offense evolving, every year or two, I feel like there's been things that become like kind of our staples. Like I think it was about 3 years ago, we call it spirit motion, where you'll see me kind of go in that jet sweep motion before the play. And like, usually it's me and Kittle like teaming up and kicking out the end man line of scrimmage or whatever. And that became a big thing like 3 years ago. And now we use that all the time, and we run every play with that motion. Or, you know, recently we've been doing like counter schemes, but we don't pull offensive linemen. We pull me and the tight end. So it's like things we're always getting to the same kind of stuff, but we're just doing it in a different way. And I feel like it's a cycle where, like, you know, I'm sure in the next year or two, we're going to get back to 18 Mike as our bread and butter.
You always know it as well as anybody we know, because when you watch games, the microphones are everywhere. And there's so many examples of you yelling at, I mean, not just like Trey or a younger player, but like Jimmy Garoppolo, like Jimmy over here, or Brock, or you're, who was it? Maybe it was Aiyuk or somebody. You're just always yelling at guys. And
it was Brandon. He was screaming.
It was
Brandon.
Hey, Brandon. That's right. And so like what John was saying about all the different quarterbacks you've played with, like when a young baseball player comes up, when they spend 3 weeks just raking, everybody always knows, right? Now they're going to start throwing them curveballs. So what do you think with a quarterback, like a young guy? It's Brock or anybody in Brock's spot, but you have to have, is there some expectation in your mind of now these defensive coordinators have spent the whole offseason watching your last 8 games or whatever? Like, what do you think defenses are going to try to do to you early in the year?
Yeah, honestly, I'm interested to see that, because I don't really have the answer yet, because usually when a young guy comes in, you're going to see all types of blitzes. And that's like Brock got that. I think we were playing against Tampa Bay, and you saw like a record number of 0 blitzes where they're bringing everybody, no safeties in the back, just man to man on each receiver. They're going to bring one more than you can block. And it's just kind of like, all right, rookie, can you make a decision quick?
That didn't go well for Todd Bowles.
It didn't go well. That's what I'm interested to see, because like he already kind of got like, you know, some of those early tests that a normal young quarterback would get. Usually it's heat him up. Let's see what kind of decisions he makes under pressure. Now, you know, it's like, do you just, you know, play him like a normal quarterback? Are there things that he kind of like gives away? I don't know. I haven't done that evaluation of him. So honestly, I'm interested to see too, how people play him.
But I think what makes it hard is you guys have this unique ability, like Kittle, Aiyuk can really stretch the field for their position. Deebo is an elite player like McCaffrey right around the line of scrimmage, where if all you have to do is basically throw a wheel route, and you could lump yourself in there too, but those guys have the ability to turn like a behind the line of scrimmage catch into 25 yards. So it's like, it's kind of what do you do? You know, you don't want to not be aggressive, but you can't be too, because if you do, I can just dump it off and I can go 40.
Right. No, I think that's definitely like, you know, one of the biggest strengths of our offense is the run after catch. Is like guys can take those little 2-yard dump offs and take them all the way, or, you know, whatever it is. So yeah, that's the dilemma that all defense coordinators have to, you know, deal with when they play against us. And you know, we're not the only team in the league that has playmakers. Like, you know, this is what these guys get paid to do. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Have you talked to Purdy about the shoulder, like how, or his elbow, how that everything's going? I know you were around him, but like,
look at his smile. Look at his face.
I know you get asked these quarterback questions a lot. I know he's getting married now, so maybe, who knows where he is. But
no, I mean, in all honesty, like I talked to him probably like 2 weeks ago, and I mean, even for him, like, what more can you really say other than like
spirits are high?
Good. Yeah, spirits are high. It's feeling good.
Juszczyk says Purdy optimistic.
How about let's go to a different team? We got a health update on our boy Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, he OTAs. He was injured.
John loves Raider news.
No new
big Raider guy.
This is not a new news here thing, but haven't heard from Jimmy in the offseason. So.
Is he texting somebody or is he texting nobody? We don't have to keep talking.
Nobody that I know of, especially now that we're not on the same team. I have no chance of getting hold of him. You know, if I had any chance, it was when I was on the team, and I was getting about a 10% return on that. So I haven't heard from Jim.
Hypothetical debate. I've had this debate many times in my life. I have my theory, but you know the answer to this. Could the average person, just regular person, if given one carry behind a well-blocked behind Juice, pick up a yard?
A yard?
Just make positive yards. Or maybe there's a better way to ask the question, John, but that's how I saw it.
Well, are you talking like 65 or like mere you?
I'm saying me or you, your average 35-year-old, 30-year-old,
Yeah.
35 is old for the NFL, your average 30-year-old, somebody in their peak physical condition who's not a football player.
Yeah.
Is it like Kittle, Juice, and Trent, or is it like an average offensive line?
This offense running behind.
Our offense? Yeah. I think we could get you a yard.
I think so too.
I think at the very least,
now.
I think we can get you to the line of scrimmage, and that's kind of, you know, can you fall forward for a yard?
See, I think no.
But it also depends on the down and distance. If it's 3rd and short, no, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
You know, but if it's 1st and 10, 2nd and 8, defense doesn't know what to expect.
4th and 22.
4th and 22, you got a better chance. But I think if you want to be realistic, like a normal human being getting 3 yards, getting 4 yards, not happening. It's just guys in this league they're freaks. They're superhumans, and they move at a different speed and different physicality. It's just too hard.
So 1 to 10 right now, where do you put your camp scaries at? You know, like people get the Sunday scaries. This isn't Junction Boys 1970. We've been to these practices. Not as crazy, so you can't go give me a 10. But
no, and so it's interesting for me because I drafted and I grew up in the Ravens, franchise. Those scaries, they were a 10 out of 10 at this point. It's like, holy shit, we're about to go to training camp. It's about to be 3 hours straight, full pads with probably 100 to 120 offensive plays ran on top of a half hour of special teams, full cover. And we literally, in Baltimore, we would, if practice started at 10 and by the NFLPA rules, you get 3 hours straight of a practice. That's maximum. Practice is starting at 10. We are dressed, full uniform, standing at the door, waiting for the clock to tick to 10 o'clock. And as soon as it does, a horn is blown and we're running out in the field. We didn't warm up. We had to take care of that before we got out there. And we practiced until 1 o'clock. And that horn blew and we were done. Like that was like Junction Boy kind of stuff.
No wonder you guys got in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so that it's still stuck in my brain, even though I haven't been there for 7 years now. Like, still part of me is just like, training camp's coming. Like, get my neck ready. Like, but then I have to remind myself, okay, like, you've been through this 6 other times. It's not like that anymore. And that's not to say that, like, our practices, like, it's not that they're not hard or they're not physical. It's just we're just in a different time now, that we're not out there for 3 hours and we're not running that many plays. Like, we still. One thing I will say about us as a team is, like, when it's time to work, we work. Like, we absolutely work our asses off. For if that's just an hour and a half, all right, that's an hour and a half of, like, we're going to go hard. But it's just not the same as it used to be. So my scaries, sorry for the long answer, they're not nearly as high. I put them at a 4 right now.
And if the NFLPA guy comes out there, Kyle will kick his ass. So were you there for that?
Oh, yeah. You missed a good one. You weren't there.
Haberman was texting me like, I got no clue what's going on, but something is going on.
I've never seen anything like that before, but man, was it entertaining.
Has Kyle gotten in your face like that before?
No.
Has he ever yelled at you?
Yes, we after 7 years together, we've had our disputes for sure, but far less of having those disputes than not having them, if that makes sense.
Do you ever have like a fundamental dispute with him? Not like an argument over something that happened, but like Kyle,
Right.
like a philosophical, I actually think it's a better way to run this play this way, or the technique should be, Kyle's always hands-on with his pass catchers, like he says, because he was a receiver. And like, he's got and obviously the run game, he has very strong feelings about.
Right.
Have you ever gotten into like a more debate, right? Like Harvard style debate than actually a dispute?
No, that's actually an interesting question. And no, I haven't had that with Kyle. I've had that with position coaches or other assistant coaches. 100% have gotten into it multiple times, because I definitely do play fullback differently than a lot of other guys have previously. And I mean, pat myself on the back, I feel like it's gone pretty well. So like, there are certain things that I do that a lot of guys, if they're not used to working with me, they're kind of like, what was that? Like, why'd you do it that way? And then, we'll have a conversation. So typically it's been with guys that I'm kind of like new to working with that I've had those discussions with. But honestly, Kyle, either we've just kind of always agreed on how things are done, or he has told me, like, at this point, he kind of stays out of my way. Like, he doesn't get too much into my technique and that kind of stuff. He kind of knows like that I'm gonna handle my business, and I'm gonna figure out what needs to be done.
Because like one thing that's interesting, right, is one of the things that happened in that they covered in that first podcast episode was Mike McDaniel saying one of the best things he ever did was he realized LaFleur and McVay are constantly trying to get at Kyle when it comes to the pass game. So he went to learn the run game because he thought that was an area where he could actually make a difference. But a lot of, you listen to this, you just look at this coaching staff that Kyle had. These are not guys that played in the NFL, right? Like John pointed out, you got drafted by Ozzie Newsome and then signed by John Lynch is your GM. But there might be a world, right, where Mike McDaniel, who knows the run game as well as anybody, is telling something to you, and you're like, I'm on the field. Like, that's not – did you ever have that with him?
Yeah. No, him and I had a few of those. And but again, most of the time him and
Mike,
I –
I'll kick your ass, Mike. Look at us.
No, but
Ivy guys.
The thing about Mike is so open to, like, letting you be your own player and letting you try things out. And if it doesn't work, then he's going to be like, hey, maybe we should try what I was saying. So yeah, Mike and I have had those conversations for sure. But it's funny. I feel like Mike and I are similar into what you were talking about. Like, he wasn't, all the other guys are trying to get Kyle's attention for the pass game. So he's like, there's an untapped market of the run game. And I almost felt like that way when I came to San Francisco, because obviously, like, Kyle's the head coach, he's the play caller. Like, everyone was trying to get in Kyle's ear and try to get his attention and that kind of stuff. And I found myself gravitating to McDaniel because I'm like, all right, this guy seems really smart, really bright. He seems to really be getting in. He's truly the one in Kyle's ear. Like, let me talk with him. And I almost felt like he was an untapped market. Like, let me work with him and, like, find my role through him. And I really feel like it worked out really well for my career, because I got even more involved with the run game than maybe I would have been if I weren't so close with McDaniel. If I wasn't, I was in his office every day shooting the shit, but also because he was genuinely, like, someone I enjoyed being around, but also, like, talking about our run game and, like, bouncing ideas off each other and just going through it. And I feel like that helped me get involved even more. So I totally understand what he's saying there when, everybody's trying to get one guy's attention, but it's like, well, maybe the move is to kind of go over here where people are kind of not looking.
When you described your style of play, you didn't specifically say this, but were you alluding to, like, you're really more than, like, in the 70s, 80s, fullbacks, head-on collisions, probably more of a positional blocker? Not that you won't physically take them on, but utilize that. Isn't that needed more probably nowadays when the athleticism with the linebackers? Back in, like, when I was growing up, they were all in the box, really two-down linebackers. They couldn't get on the field now. The athleticism with these guys, like, if you just took them head-on, Fred's going to go right around you.
Right, 100%. And it's funny because, like, early in my career, I was so embarrassed about that. And, like, I hated the term, like, position blocker, or, like, Juice is more of a finesse blocker. Like that was like a
OW. How'd you feel about that one?
That was cool though, W. It was like, all right, let's get the ball. You know?
The contract that came along with it ain't bad.
Yeah. But that was like a shot at my manhood. You know what I mean? And now, like, I truly think that's a compliment. Like, I think that is, like you said, I think that's necessary. I don't think you can just be a blockhead and go downhill and be a 2-down kind of guy. Like, you do need to be more of a position blocker and use that finesse and that kind of thing.
You run into Eagles fans out there in the Northeast?
Yes, actually. I was at a wedding in Dewey Beach, Delaware a couple weekends ago, and lots of Eagles fans there.
That game's – I'd put the Cowboy game too. I mean, those are going to be some big ones, just in terms of national conversation.
Ravens
going to be a huge one.
Steelers.
Steelers, like –
yeah. They're all big.
That's what you want, though. Like, I mean, what more do you want? Like, those are fun to play in. Like, they're genuinely fun games to be a part of. So, like, bring it on. Let's do it.
I mean, Ravens at home Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Last Ravens game was crazy.
Yeah.
Right? That was the game
in the
rain before the Saints game, which was crazy.
Yep. I mean, the Ravens, honestly, like, the Ravens, I would say, are like a similar brand. Like, you know, they're known for their physicality, as I feel like we are known for our physicality. So that's always going to be an interesting matchup because it's, you know, kind of two Titans clashing into each other.
Oh, it's
Bengals.
NFC North and NFC East. I mean, this schedule's pretty big this year. You know?
I love when I saw like the thing like 5th easiest schedule in the league, and I look at it, I'm like, I don't know. Is there such a thing as an easy schedule in the league?
No, and you guys know, like, it's always so hard to say, like, teams that you think were going to be great, you know, by the end of the year packed it in, like it, and vice versa. So it's really so hard to tell.
What do you got going on the next 12 days?
Yeah,
what is that? Is that the date? 12 or 13? Is that what you got?
Yeah, well, I'm flying back on the 23rd. I like a couple days to just chill before I have to report. But gonna get a few more rounds of golf in. Not many, probably 1 or 2 more.
Okay.
Really finishing up like this is like my last hard week of the off season. Next week will be more of a, what we call like a deload. Like, I'll still be going through the workouts, but they'll be lighter, shorter, just kind of priming that body, get ready for camp. And just enjoying some time with the family. One of the biggest things, and this, I love that Kyle always like stresses this, like, as far as like the off season and the bye week, the body obviously is so important. That is our moneymaker, but the mind, like, you got to get away for a little bit. And so, you know, I got 10, 11 more days to kind of not think too much about football. Obviously it's always in the back of your head. But you got to get away. You got to enjoy some family, some time off. And that will help you make it longer through the season and not get burned out.
I listened to a podcast with Troy Aikman the other day. He hasn't taken a hot shower in 4 months. Cold showers only. I mean, that's mentally Super Bowl champ.
Wait, because his thing now, or he only does that in the off season, or
no? He's just meditation. He's a pillar of health. I mean, you've seen him call games. The guy looks fantastic.
He does look good. And listen, I'm a big fan.
You a cold shower guy?
I'm a huge cold plunge guy. Like, I actually think there's so much science and it makes a huge difference. I got into it big towards the end of last season. But I can't do the cold showers though. Whatever it is.
I thought about it this morning, and then I got in. I was like, it feels so good hot. You know
what I did the other day was I at the end of the shower, I was like, I'll swing it to cold, see how long I can last.
Yeah.
2.5 seconds. I mean, it's
probably
the worst way to do it is after you've been in a hot shower. I thought I was going to go into shock. I don't.
So
the plunge, the tub, like, you have no option.
Yeah. Like with the shower, like half your body's cold, half of it's not, and I hate it.
Yeah. Man, anything else? Any other takes you got to get out before the predictions?
Any fire takes?
CP3 to the Warriors.
Okay. I'm throwing out a lot of love here. I threw a lot of love to Christian. There's some love to Aiyuk, Deebo.
You want to bash someone? Go.
No, I'm going the opposite way. I just want your listeners to know, like, you guys didn't prep me for this. Like, I actually want to send some love to you guys, because genuinely, so I think I started listening to you guys, like, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago. Hot take, I do not listen to you guys when we lose. So I only listen to you guys when we win. Sometimes you don't even want to hear the negative energy, but you guys have been, I don't know who your source is, but you are very well in tuned with kind of what's going on in our organization and just kind of the thought process. And I really will say that 9 times out of 10, you guys are pretty spot on. There are those one out of 10 spots that I'm like, gosh, I'm tempted to just like call these guys and be like, hey, that's not what's happening. For example, Guy, I'll put you on the spot.
Okay. That's fine. This is fair.
Talking about, we brought up going to the basketball games.
Yeah.
And in the off season, you guys had a podcast about Christian and George and Darnold were at the basketball game. And you're like, well, just not saying, but just saying Trey's not there.
I said that? You sure that wasn't John?
You got to go check your receipts. I'm pretty sure it was
all right, keep going. I won't interrupt.
I may be wrong, but
I would have supported that take.
I did want to call him and genuinely tell you guys that, like, Trey is beloved in our locker room. Like, everybody loves Trey. Like, the dude really does work his ass off. He's super personable. Like, he is a very well-liked guy. So, for whatever reason that he wasn't at the basketball game, it's not because we don't like him.
Okay. He wasn't excluded on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have guessed that was a Middlecoff take, but if I said that, I'm glad you corrected me.
He was a tight end, you.
For whatever reason, that's how I remembered it.
Okay. Hey. I can't start, you give us a compliment. I can't start complaining when you give us
one of our sources, the play caller was not happy when we said that you can't block, an all-pro with a backup tight end. We're still going back and forth on that. He's had the summer to relax, but that was the Eagles pod NFC Championship was not.
He didn't listen to that one, remember?
No. Oh yeah.
No. If we lost, I didn't listen.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's nice of you to say. You didn't have to say that.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. No, and next time we're really wrong, just we'll source you.
All right, you got it.
Kyle Juszczyk has not been a source.
No. I have not.
Occasionally, just talk some shit about players on other teams, but nothing for the pod.
That stuff's already been edited out of this pod.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Well, thanks for making time, man.
Yeah,
thanks,
absolutely.
We appreciate you being generous. And
Middlecoff
will see you in Vegas. He's a big Raider guy, so
you never know. I'll be there sitting there with Haberman and Guido. We'll be cheering you on here in a couple weeks.
Wait, so John, what's the deal? Did you move to Arizona?
Yeah, in Scottsdale right now.
You're there full time.
Full time. Just got a house probably a month ago.
Nice.
Yeah, it's amazing the tax benefits when you just cross an imaginary line from the Bay.
It's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable.
You get some of your friends playing for like the Cowboys, the Texans, are like, bro, this is some good living out here, huh?
Yeah, it is wild.
That's what sucks about the NFL. You get some of these guys like Brady goes to Florida, Tampa. He's only making $25 million, but it's could be more than his $35 million in Boston.
Yeah, no,
first class problems, but
no, it is, and nobody wants to hear us complain about it. But could definitely be used as a competitive advantage when it comes to signing guys.
That's what Eddie DeBartolo knew.
Yeah.
I see some of those, the Zenny boards. George Kittle's got some pretty
We've
good
always
deals.
had a theory.
Adobe
and Zenny. We've had some theories about that, but
I wish I was getting some of those. I don't know if that's the team setting them up or just a good PR guy.
Yeah, you gotta.
You going over to Leeds too, or is it you wait until you retire to get a piece of that?
Can't disclose that on this podcast.
All right, Juice. Thanks, man.
Absolutely, guys. Good catching up with you.
Likewise.
See you, buddy.
I will see you.